Cardiac Canada at it again as the men's hockey team will play for gold. Hey everyone, welcome into another Olympic edition of Off the Post. Rob Wong joined alongside by Patrick Johnston in Milan, Bruce Garrioch in Ottawa, and Steve Simmons in Florida by way of Toronto. Guys, they don't ask how, they ask how many, and Team Canada with another come-from-behind win, this time a 2-goal deficit early in the second to beat Finland 3-2 in the semifinal thanks to a late power play goal by Nathan MacKinnon. Patrick, we'll start with you. There was a reason Team Canada GM Doug Armstrong talked a lot about wanting players that played with determination, and that was on display today as Canada faced their biggest test so far.
Well, and also players that have played with each other. I mean, there was an intentional choice last year at the Four Nations going into this year to keep guys together. And, Connor McDavid talked about how he and Nate MacKinnon talking for like a year about what they were going to do on the power play. And you watched that whole sequence. And obviously, Macklin Celebrini is a new addition to this equation. But just the calmness. It was that the calmest one-timer a player's ever shot. Like MacKinnon just was like, yep, it's going in. And that was a statement, it was a culmination of a rather insane comeback. I mean, the confidence that was in that team, I don't think ever wavered. Of course, the crowd, the sort of tension in the crowd all the way was something else. But yeah, this is a win that these players wanted to get. They wanted to get it for their captain. And, I think they wanted to get it for their fans. It was a huge, raucous, pro-Canadian crowd. And they get everything that's on the line and what people want out of them. It was just a remarkable evening all around.
There's a difference between being a team and having a collection of players. Canada has relied in the last 2 games basically on the collection of players, I think, too often, rather than being a team. And it almost cost them today. They got down 2-0. Finland is Finland. Nobody punches above their weight historically better than Finland does. So all credit in the world to Finland. But I don't see enough of the Canadians being a team. John Cooper's relying way too much on McDavid and MacKinnon and Celebrini and one pair of defense. And he's kind of sort of putting guys in and out of spots when he can find them. But, maybe on Sunday in the gold medal game, that will emerge. I didn't see it in the quarterfinals, and frankly, I didn't see it today.
One thing I'd like to see, and if they do play the Americans on Sunday, I'd certainly like to see I'd like to see Team Canada be a bit more aggressive. And I think sometimes you've got to go to the hard areas. And I thought that was a problem against the Czechs, and I thought it was an issue again today for the early part of that game. As much as they were out shooting the Finns, they weren't getting to the hard areas, and that is one thing that if they are going to play the Americans, and there's no guarantee that the Americans are going to beat Slovakia as we speak right now, but I think they have to be a little tougher to play against, and there are some guys right now you just aren't seeing on that Canadian roster.
I think it's notable that both goals happened because of players making hard work around the net, right? There was something, you're absolutely right, not enough getting inside. Well, Brad Marchand got inside and made a mess, and the second goal happens partly because he's there making a mess. The third goal happens because Sam Reinhart and Macklin Celebrini get down in the corner and win a puck battle, right? And get the puck to the front of the net. Now, McDavid ended up playing the puck away from the front of the net, but that was what they've been sort of waiting to do all game. I absolutely agree with you that, Bruce. Like the sort of time that's taken for them to start really breaking down stuff on the inside is concerning. And obviously, no matter who they play on Sunday is going to key in on that. The Finns tried to park the bus, and they almost did it, right? Canada, in the end, did finally break things down, and they finally got UC Saros moving. That, I suppose, is the one thing that they can look at, no matter who they play on Sunday, does not have UC Saros, who's clearly the best goalie in the world right now. The performance from the Finnish goalie almost won them a big game, and Canada needs to learn from that.
To me, one of the MVPs of today was John Cooper. And I say that because there was a lot of guys who weren't giving him a lot. And so he kept going back to Taves and Makar on defense, who I think played 28 minutes or thereabouts. And I think that the stat sheet's probably wrong. They probably played 35 minutes because every time I looked, they were on the ice and playing terrific. And every time he put, McDavid with MacKinnon and Celebrini, they did what they do. But it was until he found that Bennett, Wilson, Marchand line, they didn't have the kind of line Bruce was talking about. The guys in the dirty areas, the guys going into the corners, the guys fighting for loose pucks. He may have found a line for Sunday morning, and it will be interesting to see like what his lineup is if Sidney Crosby's not playing, and I assume he's not.
And one of the things we haven't talked about is the defense. I mean, I think I'm a little. I don't know. I just like to see a little bit more from their defensemen, and I don't know what I want to see, but you see it firsthand.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like, listen, Makar's been a puck carrier, and Devon Taves. I mean, I've said this. I think I said this the other night, but I've said this to a few people. If Devon Taves didn't play with Cale Makar, we would talk about him more. He's an excellent two-way defenseman. But they've been leaning on those two guys. Thomas Harley had moments. I like Harley's ability to jump up in the play. Travis Sanheim showed some moments there where he was jumping up into the play. But yeah, like the sort of the overall consistency, they kept control of the play. I mean, how many shots did Finland have in the second period? Only 2. Listen, they kept the puck in the zone and they controlled it well, but they need a little more punch. And I think you're absolutely right to identify that line, because it was a big talking point after the game when we talked to John Cooper, was assembling that line. Because if you don't have Sidney Crosby, you have to and you're going to put McKinnon with McDavid and Celebrini. Like, you've got to start thinking about what else do you have and how are you going to make this all work. And that line really was a seek and destroy. Like, Tom Wilson has had some great moments, and let's not overlook Eric Howell's defensive play in the first period when Sanheim got the puck over. And if Wilson in most other games has actually been able to finish that, he didn't tonight. And Wilson finally found some guys that wanted to play the way he was, which is not surprisingly Brad Marchand and Sam Bennett. Like, let's make a mess and let's get in there and something's going to happen. And they finally did.
And we've gotten this far without mentioning Jordan Binnington again. Even with 2 seconds to go, he had to make a save. He had about 4 what I would call reasonable chances by guys who have hands in the last period, and didn't let them in. And give him credit for that. And even give him credit on the last play when he catches the puck. He doesn't keep the puck because it's going to be a face-off he wants to throw it into the corner and run the clock out. He's pretty aware. For a lousy NHL goalie, this guy has more than done what he's supposed to do in this tournament, and he did it last year. So I don't know who in the hell he is. Frankly, he's either that guy or this guy. I want to go back to Sanheim also for 1 second. There was at least 4 times today where he had the puck in what I would consider like a scoring position or a way you could create offense position. And they didn't get any offense out of any of those 4 plays to speak of. And I keep thinking, this is general manager play. What if that's Jacob Chikrin? What if that's Evan Bouchard? What if that's Matthew Schaefer? Are those going in? I think Canada doesn't have enough O from its D. And I think that's roster construction. And it probably was in retrospect a mistake.
Well, it's funny. Go ahead, Patrick.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say exactly. Like at the end of the day, like there was a fair bit of that. I don't think Sanheim's the only one guilty of that, but maybe overpassing a little bit, right? Like trying to find instead of just let's get into the net, and win some battles, and let's get something ugly. There was a little bit of there's a guy open over there, maybe he can do something. And that I have to believe is something they're going to highlight, guys. Going into whoever we play in the final, we just got to get the puck on top of the crease and make something happen.
Pucks to the net, go to the net. Sorry, Bruce.
Well, you know what? Look, I mean, it's funny you were talking about that, Steve, because the social media people with broken ankles from jumping off the bandwagon were upset that Schaefer and Bedard weren't there in those first 35, 40 minutes. But, Sunday is going to be interesting.
All right, shifting to Sunday, Patrick, looked like Sidney Crosby tried to give it a go today. Ultimately, did not happen for him. We still haven't seen Josh Morrisey since the first game of this tournament. What is the likelihood that either of these players could potentially suit up for the gold medal game on Sunday?
Well, first of all, Morrisey is a bit of a mystery because he practiced the other day and he was practicing with Colin Parayko in a pair, and he sure looked like he was a guy that was about to play. And, John Cooper said, we just need to do sort of one more check. But he kind of said, I'm feeling good about this. He didn't say he will play, but he said, we'll do, I think, there's a good chance. And we basically haven't seen him since. So it's been a bit strange. As for Crosby, there's 48 hours. Cooper said, it's a bit of a can line. He said it to a few people. He said it to us, and I think he said it on TV. He said, listen, there's a better chance of him. There was always a better chance of him playing in a gold medal game than there was tonight. And so we can draw whatever conclusions, whether it's he sprained something, strained something in his quad. I don't know. But yeah, whatever it is he's dealing with, I was told he went for a skate this morning, tried it out, and obviously whatever it is, he just can't go. So the players weren't told until right before the game. The team made a coaching staff obviously made a very conscious effort to sort of not let the players worry about it or think about it too long. So they said, guys, this is what we're going with tonight. And the players said we got to do this for Sid because they did not want Wednesday's game to be the last game he ever suits up for Canada. So they've got one more chance, and I think there's a good chance of Sid can get out there and move his legs, and he'll have another 24 hours of rehab work, whatever it is you can do in this. It's a non-zero chance. We'll see. They're talking big. We'll see.
You guys are all watching this in Canada, and I'm watching this on NBC in the U.S. So I presume I'm getting a different perspective of sorts. Watching, well, you're in the building, Patrick. So it's like three different viewpoints.
It's
here.
right next to me.
So I heard probably on the broadcast today from Kenny Albert and Eddie Olchuk about 10 times that the captain Sidney Crosby is missing, and this is a big problem for a variety of reasons. And I agree with all of that. What was never once mentioned, the captain from Finland. His name is Barkov, who has played brilliantly against Connor McDavid in Game 7s. Wasn't playing for Finland.
Yeah.
They didn't mention that. That never even came up.
I was going to ask you though, Steve, because
the Finns played. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask you though, Steve, if your Kyle Dubas sitting there with what is essentially a Game 7 on Sunday and a gold medal on the line, and you're an assistant GM on Team Canada, and you're also the GM of the Pittsburgh Penguins, where you're relying on Sidney Crosby to at least help you make the playoffs. How do you feel about it? Because I said this to you guys the other night, I don't want him getting it out. But how do you feel about him getting it out?
I'd like the MRI to tell me that answer. Because if gutting it out means he's out for the season in Pittsburgh, then I'm not doing that. If gutting it out means that he can play when he gets back to the NHL and can help them possibly make the playoffs, it's an interesting story. Because if Pittsburgh makes the playoffs and Crosby's playing, he may be the Hart Trophy winner.
Yeah. In similar terms, how funny is it that maybe by sticking with this guy, Jordan Binnington, Doug Armstrong has somehow made Binnington into a useful trade chip because he's showing himself to be such a big game player, and he can turn around and flip him somewhere else. That was the thought.
Hello, Stan Bowman. Hello.
Yeah.
I got a guy here.
You want another goalie? You want another goalie? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe Connor McDavid's going to be making some calls before the trade deadline once this is all over. But one more game left to go for Team Canada. We'll see if they can pull it off in Milan. For Steve Simmons, Bruce Garrioch, Patrick Johnston, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.